Hello, everyone. Welcome to All Systems Go, and thank you so much for joining our session today. My name is Kevin Fong, and I'm one of the customer success managers at Netreo. And briefly, I'm passionate about understanding our customers better so we can really overall do a better job in helping them and advocate for them throughout their journey with Netreo. In today's session, we'll be covering what it looks like to navigate the changes and challenges that come with digital transformation. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce our panelists today. We have Matt Penner, who is the Director of Information and Instructional Technology for the Verde Unified School District. And in this role, over 10 years, he's passionate about building teams that thrive on exceeding expectations. And as a frequent presenter at education and commercial conferences, he is a thought leader engaged in improving the awareness of IT as a core member of the organizational leadership team. He's also a site certified chief technology officer and is proud to serve on the site board as director at large. Matt, thanks for joining us again this year, and it's great to have you back sharing your expertise.
Thank you very much. Happy to do so.
And next up, I'd like to introduce you to Jonas Lundgren, who is the Director of Technology Services for the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, where he uses Netreo to manage the county's extensive IT infrastructure. His 24 years on the job has given him incredible insights into solving the challenges faced by those managing the IT infrastructures that support large school systems, as well as solving the day-to-day challenges faced by individual schools and classrooms. Jonas, thanks for joining us for this year.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be part of the panel.
That's awesome. Just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. This session is pre-recorded. But for those tuning in today, please utilize the All Systems Go chat platform if you have any questions to ask, and we can address them at a later time. And also, please connect with Matt and Jonas either on here or on LinkedIn. Both Matt and Jonas have been longtime users of Netreo and have been navigating the changes and challenges that come with digital transformation for a long time now. So let's not wait any longer and get started. So the pandemic has supercharged digital transformation efforts, but really accelerated technology adoption, and it's created its own set of challenges. And my first question to Matt and Jonas, you can follow up, is what types of challenges have the past 2 years exposed, and what changes have you implemented to overcome those challenges? And lastly, how have those changes made your organization stronger? Matt?
Yeah, a lot of the challenges, like everyone else, when you send your entire workforce home with 1 day's notice, and then in education, your 20,000 students in our case, that's a pretty rough challenge. I think ways that we helped overcome those, we already had Chromebooks in the hands of all of our students for several years. So that was really advantageous. They already had the devices. And a lot of our teachers were used to using online platforms, but they just had never had to do it for 100% of the time. And then we had to quickly adapt to platforms like Zoom and other online curriculum. So I think, the challenges were, allowing the organization and the instruction to keep happening, even though you're in an entirely disconnected, completely different environment. Ways we overcame that, it exposed a lot of accessibility issues, obviously getting to what you needed to. Our ability to be agile and flexible, then coupled with that, all the security. So we moved a lot of systems to cloud. We put some nice, robust automations in place to take care of a lot of the manual work. That was a lot of working with the various departments and educators, and even the parents, about what systems that they needed access to and on an automated basis. So I'd say coming out of that, it made our organization stronger in a way that we're more resilient, we're more flexible to change. We've got a lot of good processes in place. I think ultimately it built a lot of great relationships. It was hard, but we all braved it together. And in the end, we came out with, I think, a lot more mutual respect of what everyone is doing. And now we've got, the names and phone numbers and friends and colleagues we can call up on the phone when we're, in a trench trying to solve a problem. So I think in those ways, it made our organization stronger.
Awesome. Jonas, what was your experience?
Obviously very similar. County office, a little different, but fewer students, so we weren't tasked quite with that. But for us, with our workforce, it was hard, to get the 5,000 Chromebooks out there. So that was a challenge for us. But the 2,500 admin folks, to get them virtually connected back in, that we were not ready for that, and we had to really beef up our remote connectivity, and also, two-factor authentication, make sure everything is secure when they're working from home, or as secure it can be. So that was a big challenge for us. Basically retooled a lot of things quickly. As Matt said, you have to pivot and be agile and be able to adjust. That helped our staff, I think, tremendously to go through that exercise. It was not easy, but through SITE and all these other organizations, we had a lot of help and assistance. We also, of course, being county office, we were tasked with providing many solutions for districts, such as financial services, remote connectivity, which we frowned upon forever, off the network. And now it wasn't just needed. It was no other option. So again, how do we do that securely? So that was a challenge. We also somehow became a concierge service for video conferencing, which was really interesting. My staff, I like to say they moved from the back room to the boardroom, and that was quite the adjustment for a huge part of the staff, including me. I like the back room, not so excited about the boardroom, but that's really changed, and it has made our organization stronger. We work much closer in unity with other departments now, and we broke down barriers that been there for a long time. You mentioned 24 years for me, and this helped us actually just grow closer and work more tightly knit with the whole organization. So it's been huge in that aspect. I don't want to do it again, but we're here now, so excited about the changes that were implemented.
That's great, Jonas. And speaking of, your 24 years, I imagine, much has changed. What types of technology changes have you been hesitant to move towards? And maybe something not quite like the traditional way, that can get much better? What kind of technology you've been hesitant to move towards?
Lots of them. I mean, there's 24 years ago, it was a whole different ball game, right? There wasn't such a thing as a virtual world. Once we started bringing up our virtual farm, that was scary. Once you don't have dedicated servers, then you realize that you're freeing up a lot of floor space and rack space, which is wonderful. But the virtual, and then one of the things that I still struggle with today is, deduplication technologies. That scares me a bit. I mean, it's certainly efficient and works great, but it seems like there's a point of failure there that's hard to get around at times. I can't think of other things, but just change is difficult, right? Once you have it down and it works, just when the scale gets to be bigger, then certain technologies needs to be implemented, and those are things I can think of. Cloud-based, that was a big thing too, right? Where you want to have ownership of your information to control the flow of the data, and that makes it harder. So again, cloud-based was not easy to implement or to let go of. But now, as Matt mentioned too, a lot of the stuff we had to move to the cloud, and now you kind of see the benefits once you realize it's not going to break tomorrow, hopefully, and the resilience is there. And let's face it, these cloud providers provide security that is very good most of the time. So those are just a couple of things that I think I struggle with, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. And, and speaking of, that type of technology, Matt, how important is it to have the right technology in place to help accomplish some of your, school district's goals? Any examples of what went well? And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a funny question. How important is it to have the right technology? I guess the opposite question was, is it okay to have the wrong technology? No, extremely important. And I think any IT department with, even a minimal staff has been in a place where they've got technology, where they don't have the technology that meets the needs and the responsibilities they have. Right technology, I guess, yeah, one example is, so I mentioned our Chromebooks earlier. We had an initiative to redefine what education looked like. What is instruction? What is learning, and when are they allowed to do it? Is it only when they're in that, classroom with their teacher, and that's it? You're outside the walls, no more learning takes place unless you're reading out of a textbook, And so we had this big push to put Chromebooks everywhere. It took us several years to get there. It is not an easy thing to do, and it's extremely expensive. But yeah, about 6-7 years ago, we had Chromebooks in the hands of every student, and we allowed them to take them home. We allowed them to keep them over the summer. And so with an initiative like that, it was, we had to change a lot of things, how do you get devices to kids? How do they connect in the classrooms? Having 20,000 individual devices trying to get on the network and the wireless is not an easy task. And then you have all the cultural issues too. We had parents who were calling saying, what is this device in my home? Why is my kid on it at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night in their bed? All this stuff. So we had to really tackle and get to a lot of that. I think it was really worthwhile though, because now you've got kids who are able to collaborate on a document and talk with each other. When, my age, when I was in school, it was go home, open the math book, and you're doing problems 2 through 50, only the even ones. And if I couldn't understand the first 2 or 3, I was stuck. I had 25 more to go and didn't know how to do them. Now students are able to, chat with each other. My daughter likes to have study sessions with her friends, and they go over group projects and stuff together. That was never possible. So I think it's really neat. We hear things of like, kid's a musician and, oh my gosh, he's watching YouTube all day long. But yeah, he's watching his favorite bands, and he's learning how to do the guitar covers, and he's playing guitar and stuff like that. And we hear things like kids are using their devices and their Google accounts to talk with colleges and get jobs. And so that was really how we wanted to change things. And then when the pandemic hit, it was, again, I feel like that was just really lucky on our part that we had tried to figure out what our role is as a school district these days. And because we had done it when the pandemic hit and we sent 20,000 kids home and teachers were teaching online, it wasn't easy at all, like we were saying before. But I think we had a really good environment in place where we had already tackled a lot of those challenges that the kids were now used to using the devices, and they were used to getting on Google Classroom and interacting with teachers at all hours of the day. We had to get over the stress and the just the challenges of that environment, and devices keep them working at home and things like that. But I think that's one situation where, as a district, we had a goal. Everyone came together, and we had the technology. We had to work up to it. Again, it wasn't easy, but we had the technology in place to meet the goal over time. It took us several years. And when something out of the blue came that would have disrupted our normal way of working, we were in a good position to at least do the best we could with it. So,
yeah, no, that's really good. Anything to add, Jonas?
No, not to that question. Thanks.
All right. As we, move towards, the future of digital transformation in education, what are some of the things that your school is hoping to tackle next, Matt?
Digital transformation is one of those funny terms that I think means a lot of things to a lot of people. I think the way I've learned about it best is, I've seen it used in very lofty, wonderful ways, and I've seen it used to define why we're getting new laser printers, stuff
Right.
like that. But I think it means a fundamental change in how we do something. I mean, we're transforming. That's what it's about, ostensibly for the better. I think anytime we can use the technology and the richness that we have to fundamentally change our organization and what we do in ways that we couldn't have done 10 years ago. And so we've had computers forever. We've had databases and networks and stuff. They've gotten far more complex But I think we've all proven over the last, 20 years, you can't just throw technology into an organization or into a classroom or in the CBO's office and suddenly everything is so much better. Suddenly kids are getting straight A's and in class all day long. So it all comes back to how do we use that to change the mission of our organization, whether it's commercial or public sector. My superintendent said years ago, we're data rich and information poor. I think that's the biggest challenge for the education industry right now is we have tons of data. And I think now is one of the first times between a lot of what Jonas talked about, we had these different servers, we're now moving stuff to cloud, things that I had mentioned too with all the devices. For the first time, I think we truly have a chance to figure out where our students are in their learning, what challenges they have individually, how well our staff is doing as far as educators and then staff in the business office, how happy, staff are, how well they're doing in their job, what gaps do we have. So I think digital transformation for us kind of means bringing all of those resources together and actually tying them together and making good decisions as a group as to how we can do what we do better, improve our mission. So you asked about a challenge. I think that term digital transformation just doesn't resonate to anyone in our district beyond the IT team, because that's a term we hear a lot these days in technology circles. I would love to see that term get more and more out into the leadership circles, so my CBO understood what it meant, my superintendent. And I'm trying on my end, but it'd be nice to see that more in that business type community. I think due to CalPads, that's the California Student Information System, where they take all of our data. That helps define our funding. It defines what our districts are allowed to do. I think that has created a really good lens on the data that we provide. And so we now, as a district, and all districts in California, I'm sure across the nation, are doing this with data. We are honing and refining programs that are specifically targeting students that are in certain needs, whether it's an at-risk need. We have some students who are falling to the sides. Maybe it's advancement needs. We have students who are just on the cusp of getting into, state level universities and colleges. And what do we need as a district to help them with that? We have students who are on a technology or technical career path, maybe not college. How do we help them in those areas? What I don't see is we're using this data yet on the business side. I don't see that we're using it yet on the HR side. And we're not really using it outside of the classroom. And so for digital transformation for us, I would love to see that being used. We've had some conversations internally where IT is positioned in a great way. We help human resources, we help the fiscal team. We're also putting technology in the classroom. We're in this unique position that we can see when a teacher gets hired, all the steps they have to go through and all the different departments before they stand foot in front of those kids. And so how do we make sure they're doing the best job they can? So I think that's where we're in our infancy. I think public sector is a little behind, as we tend to be sometimes. You've got these great commercial companies who have to use their data, right? Because what defines a great company like Netreo and everything that you guys have done recently is it's all about finding out what customers need and how fast you can get that to market in a really good platform. And you guys have really tackled that, especially in the last couple of years with the moves you've made and the new markets you're getting into. I think from a school district perspective, it's really easy to sit back and say, well, the kids are going to come here anyway. We've got families and houses, maybe we don't really need to be so intent on finding where the gaps are and how to solve problems. If we've got 40 Chromebooks in a classroom and a nice 80-inch screen on the wall and the teacher's connecting to Google Classroom, if there's a gap in there, I just said a little bit of technology, but there's probably 5 different departments who make that classroom work. And I think the more that we can look at the value we provide as a department to all these other people, It's the business processes, it's the financial processes. I mentioned to my CBO one time, his last name is Waters, and he has 2 T's in his name. I said, what happens if someone, when they're typing that into yet another system, forgot a T? Is your payroll messed up? Is it your retirement? Heck, is it just your vacation? I want to go on vacation and that didn't get approved because it's the wrong person. Let's talk with these teams. Let's get our systems talking to each other. Let's solve the easy stuff. Let's stop typing things into 10 different places. Let's type it in once, work with teams and get that across the organization. But now let's look at the data. How fast are we getting people into these systems? How fast can we get these purchases and technology into the classrooms? And how fast can we find out how well it's working? We spend $1 million on all these great, labs and classrooms. Is it really moving the needle as far as what we define as education? So that's where I think digital transformation is hitting education. I really hope people start to look at it as a way to break down the silos and start working with each other. I think it's still easy to work in silos. And I think technology, the IT department, is really well positioned because we help everybody. I think we're positioned well to kind of keep these conversations going. So,
yeah, thanks for that, Matt. I know it's complex, right? But I mean, that's what IT has come to, nowadays. And I mean, just taking a slight turn, but I know you talked about data information, how important that is, and to be able to interpret it. Jonas, I want to take a minute and ask you, regarding, we'll just say, network management, and that's something that your organization uses Netreo for. It's like we do our best to help our customers be more proactive and reactive in that sense. How important is having visibility into your network, for your organization?
It's huge. So we monitor and manage a plethora of circuits, so to speak, and connections. So we utilize your panels a lot, and that's been really helpful with the displays. So we don't have to rely on alerts quite as much, and then we can be not proactive, but we can act quicker. We certainly work through the reporting features and look at historical data to be able to recommend additional bandwidth, etc., for circuits. But Netreo has been a huge partner for us to be able to help us act quicker and be more proactive when it comes to solutions moving forward. I just want to piggyback real quick on what Matt was talking about data. That's some of the things we're working with. Big data. Many school districts were trying to get everything working together and get that data up in Azure. That's the cloud of our preference, I guess. And then using Power BI and tools like that to be able to utilize that data and get good information out of there. So those are some of the digital transformation, if you want to call it, that we're working on right now to get schools and collect that data and be able to get good information efficiently out of that data sets. We're also, within our technology group here, we have a digital learning services department that's over the last 5 years have become extremely busy to try to educate teachers and districts and also our staff to be able to better utilize technology. We're also struggling with the multiple inputs, so that's something that we're trying to address too with tools. How the systems can better integrate and automate. So that's some of the things we're trying to do to automate to make it more efficient, so we don't have the repetitive inputs and the errors that clearly we see. So that's just some of the things.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the insight. Matt, do you have anything else to add?
No, that's wonderful. It's just it's really fascinating to hear what services and everything go on at the county level, because while we're not in Jonas's county, we have a county office as well, and at school districts there's 22 of us that we're all learning from each other, but ultimately we also rely on the expertise and just the skill set of our county office as they help us in any of the areas that we don't have the the team or ability or the resources to handle. So thank you, Jonas. I know I'm not one of your school districts, but we really do appreciate everything that you guys do for us.
Well, you're our neighboring county, and so
Oh,
we
yeah.
we work closely with your county office as well. It's changed over the last 24 years. Go back to that question. It used to be really siloed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very protective, and that has changed. And this whole thing, and yeah, no, I work close with your county office. We trade information all the time, and that, for the benefit of all school districts in both counties. So
yes,
that's great. And as we wrap up the session, that one question that always kind of comes to mind when I think about, technology is so great, but it has its limitations, right? So, Jonas, as technology continues to evolve, what's something that technology won't ever be able to replace from your point of view?
that's an interesting question, because it changes all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We always think, no way, self-driving cars, no way. And here we are, dude. I'm not driving one, and I probably won't because I'm old. But the point, I wouldn't be driving. See, I'm that old. I would be sitting there. But the point is, it changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what you think is not achievable or can't even, you can't even fathom the idea, and then you wait a couple of years, and now it's an option. So I hesitate to think of many things now, or that it's hard to get that interaction, like, so in the classroom between teachers and students. I have kids, and they're younger-ish. I have a junior in high school, and he's been homeschooled for a long time, and he's back in the classroom, and he's loving it.
Mm-hmm.
He feeds off of that thing. That is, and we're sitting here and we're having a great conversation, but is it all the same? No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference. So that, I mean, the human touch. I mean, how do you get there? But other aspects is hard to put a limit on, because technology is moving forward so quickly. So that's really the only thing I would, that human touch, that's hard to replace. Good bedside manners is hard to do over Zoom. So that's really the only thing that I would have limited it to.
Yeah. What about you, Matt? What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Two thoughts came to mind. One is how everything connects to each other. So, Jonas is running all their servers and network and systems, but he fundamentally understands how it all works together. And when he gets a new task, he says, oh yeah, this is how we can figure out. Same thing with us. I mentioned the Chromebooks and the kids in the classroom. Between the Chromebooks and the access point and Google Docs and the screen on the wall, those are all different things, but a person had to envision, what does the classroom look like, and what do we need to put that together? So it's that connection and the vision. And then, like Jonas said, the empathy, the bedside manner, the kids interacting in class. I don't see that ever being changed. I see it being augmented maybe, but I don't see it ever being replaced. There's just no way. Something as, as simple as, oh my gosh, Netreo, it's showing us something red. What the heck is going on? Let's figure it out and dive into it. But the empathy behind that realizes somebody is about to be impacted, right?
Yeah.
A switch is going to go down. A server is going to go offline. Someone is going to be impacted in what they're trying to do every day. And having that empathy of understanding, there's a reason why we have Netreo, right? There's a reason why we want to make sure we have a robust network and everything is up and running, because we're providing a service. And so, yeah, it's that understanding of why, things are the way they are. So,
yeah. Well, I definitely appreciated, both of your insights and your expertise. So I just want to thank you again for, you joining us today. And it's always a pleasure to speak with both of you and learning. And for everyone in the audience, don't forget to connect with Matt and Jonas within the All Systems Go platform, as well as LinkedIn. And if you do have any additional questions for Matt or Jonas, or, being in education or IT in general, feel free to get in touch with them, on the platform, or connect with me, and I can definitely pass those questions along. So thanks again for everyone. We look forward to seeing you at the rest of our breakout sessions today and tomorrow. So thank you again, Matt and Jonas.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yep.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.